Good morning, everybody. It's nice to get the chance to present to you today, even if I can't see you. That's assuming some of you are still watching. Anyway, in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be giving you a whistle-stop tour of Radiocentre's latest research study, which explores how exposure to radio advertising on the journey to the supermarket can help FMCG brands increase standout on shelf and influence purchase behaviour. Let's start with some background. Now, we know from a range of previous research studies that radio advertising can generate significant uplifts for FMCG brands, such as brand salience, brand relevance, and return on investment, especially when creative synergies are exploited across the wider media mix. Now, all of these support the case for FMCG advertisers to increase their investment in radio. So why do we need more FMCG-related research, I hear you ask, metaphorically speaking? Well, with the average supermarket now featuring around 25,000 SKUs or stock keeping units, the competition on shelf for FMCG brands has never been higher. On the publication of their recent report, The Smart Shelf, Your Pathway to Winning in Retail, Nielsen encapsulated the increasing competitive challenge for brands in store, revealing that 60% of shoppers don't decide on which brand and product to purchase until they're standing in front of the shelf. On average, 41% of brands in a category go unnoticed. And finally, shoppers only spend 15 seconds in front of any given shelf. The report concludes that when consumers are uncertain about purchase choices, manufacturers have a significant opportunity to influence their ultimate decisions. And here's how radio can help. IPA Touchpoints reveals that live radio reaches 38% of people in the moment travelling by car to buy groceries. That's 13 times greater than the reach of the next largest content-led medium. This means that radio presents FMCG advertisers with a unique opportunity to intervene and exert last-minute influence on buyers to sway their decision when standing in front of the fixture. So this study was set up to understand the specific outcomes of reaching buyers in this way. In particular, we set out to explore how exposure to radio advertising on the journey to the supermarket can help brands increase standout on shelf and influence purchase behaviour, and then how these effects can be maximised through creative development and media planning. So that's what we set out to learn. How did we go about it? With a focus on how radio advertising can influence in-store behaviour, we appointed an established shopper insight consultancy, Shoppercentric, to run this project on our behalf. Shoppercentric developed a methodology using a driver point of view video of a car journey to the supermarket. This featured the car radio playing in the background, with advertising included as a natural part of this audio content. This meant that exposure to radio ads was consistent for every respondent, and that the ads were heard distractedly, as they would be on a typical car journey in real life. Webcams were used to passively capture second-by-second emotional response as the video of the car journey elapsed, and eye tracking was employed when participants were asked to observe relevant in-store shelf fixtures. Following this, participants were asked to complete a questionnaire to capture their conscious response to the advertised brand. Radio ads were selected from 4 categories. Each category was chosen on the basis that it contained enough branded competitors to ensure fair and balanced results. In terms of the ads, we selected brands with relatively current radio campaigns that focused on brand rather than short-term promotional offers. The 4 brands were split across 2 test cells, and results were compared to a third control cell featuring 2 non-FMCG ads to provide a baseline. The total sample matched across the 3 cells was 300 commercial radio listeners aged 18 to 55, all of whom were non-rejectors of the test brands. So that's how we did it. What did we find out? Well, in the background to this study, we reviewed Nielsen's data revealing how most shoppers don't decide which brand to buy until they're standing in front of the shelf, and how the limited time spent in front of each shelf leads many brands to go unnoticed. So how can exposure to radio advertising in car on the way to the supermarket help brands overcome these challenges? Well, when asked to look at the relevant supermarket shelves following the video of the car journey, the passive eye tracking analysis revealed that the visual attention of participants exposed to the test ads was drawn towards the advertised brands. On average, visibility of the test brands increased by 11.3% among the radio advertising sample compared to the control sample. We can conclude from this that radio advertising heard on the journey to the supermarket primes shoppers to take more notice of brands on shelf. But what effect does this have, if any, on purchase behaviour? After looking at the relevant supermarket shelves, participants were asked which of the products they would have bought. The data in this chart shows that radio advertising exerts a powerful effect on purchase consideration in the store environment, increasing overall intention to purchase by a third. Interestingly, this uplift effect was equally potent among those who currently feature the test brands in their purchasing repertoire and those that don't. This suggests that exposure to radio advertising just prior to the shopping occasion can reinforce existing brand loyalty and additionally encourage brand switching. Now, as with any study of this nature, there were significant differences in effect by brand. While the average uplift in overall purchase intent was 33%, the top performing brand experienced an increase of almost double this at 65%. At the other end of the spectrum, the brand with the lowest uplift only saw purchase intent increase by 4%. This pattern of effect by brand was broadly consistent across both repertoire and non-repertoire buyers. Now clearly, a large degree of this variation is going to be attributable to category effects, but advertising creativity will also play a role. What can the data tell us about factors that differentiate the better performing ads, and what can advertisers learn from this to optimise results from their own campaign? Now, in the IPA study, the long and the short of it, the authors highlight how emotional campaigns produce considerably more powerful long-term business effects than rational persuasion campaigns. So how do our test ads perform in this respect? Well, to capture emotional response, Shoppercentric used facial recognition technology to record the micro-emotions involuntarily displayed on the face of each participant as they were hearing the radio ads. Now, as we can see from the aggregate emotional response score by brand shown in this chart, the advertising that generated the strongest emotional response correlates closely with higher purchase intent. FMCG advertisers often use radio creatively to promote rational tactical offers. This analysis suggests that radio effects could be enhanced through greater use of emotional messaging. Further structural analysis of the radio ads featured in the test reveals that the three best performers were all strongly linked with long-running and well-established creative campaign ideas. This learning is consistent with findings from the Radiocentre study Profit Driving Radio, featuring data from Ubiquity that demonstrates how profit ROI for an FMCG radio campaign was doubled when the creative work was more closely aligned with that shown on TV. Brand D was the exception, in that it was a relatively new campaign to air. However, the use of audio assets consistently across media suggests that this campaign effectiveness will improve over time if the strategy is maintained and the campaign becomes established. So that concludes this whirlwind trip around these results. To summarise the main findings again, beyond delivering broader effects for FMCG brands in terms of awareness, salience, and ROI, radio's reach of shoppers in-car offers advertisers a chance to exert last-minute influence to increase visibility on shelf and drive purchase consideration. Now, you can read more in the report, which is available on the Radiocentre website, and it includes further thoughts on how marketers can optimise these effects from a media and a creative perspective. If you've got any questions, please head over to Twitter right now and I'll try and answer them. Otherwise, drop me an email at your leisure. Hope you found it valuable. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you all in person soon. Goodbye.